Okay, so no Indigenous islanders of this nation are going to join Britain's rainbow-coloured, gay, left-wing, Rastafarian military or whatever it's become. But we know some people that will join it, and they'll probably get paid half. I'm going to chat with my old friend Tim Davies, former jet pilot, and we're going to try and say goodbye to Britain's military together. And I don't even know if that's a bad thing. Tim, how are you, sir?
Good, Chris. Thanks for having me back. You never call me anymore. It's almost don't love me anymore.
Oh, it's been long overdue. We've got someone to thank. I'll find their name in a minute. Someone tweeted me or messaged me and said, "You need to get this guy on your show." I said, I think I politely replied that you've been on my show 3 times before. So, yes. Yeah, I get that quite a lot. I get, Chris, you need to get this guy. And it's like, he was on 3 days ago.
Yeah, well, you told me to come on. You sent me a text. And if I remember correctly, it says, yeah, we're going to be on Friday at 2:00, Tim. I was like, all right, Chris, chill out, mate. I'll be there. No worries.
Yes. How's, well, congrats on your YouTube experience, going up in subscribers. You saw your video that's coming up for 500,000 views, and what was it titled? Why fighter pilots aren't rejoining the RAF?
Why they won't go back? Yeah, why fighter pilots won't go back? Why they're not going to join the Royal Air Force? Yeah, that's it. Why they're not going to rejoin? Yeah.
So I thought we could just have a chat about everything military. I don't really talk about it these days. I've sort of lost interest in it all.
That's all right. I have as well. Don't worry about it. It's all good, but it's still there in our hearts, Chris, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's there in our history, isn't it?
Valid.
It's funny. We all kind of, a lot of people look back and say, yeah, military, best days of my life. And I wonder how many people should be saying, I shouldn't really have joined the military. I should have worked on my childhood trauma instead and got that sorted out, and then not spent a life of anxiety, depression and alcoholism.
Yeah, well, I've been there. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So, but also we've got a responsibility to undo that. Because size your mug, that's just taking a piss now. That's like, we're going to get willies out in a minute, isn't it? What is...
Okay, that...
Valid. I'm Mr. Happy. Well, that's not true, is it? But you know what I mean? But you can't just bring your mug up like that and just... I mean, that's wrong, isn't it? I'm going, doing this, and you're going, I'll have that. That's right. Next time I'm on here, I'm getting a mugathon out. Seriously, we take the piss Kenny Everett style mug. It'd be like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I will do that as well.
I can't do that. I've got RSI in my shoulder. It's been I haven't been able to use my shoulder for 6 months now, so
doesn't surprise me.
Probably because of that mug, yeah.
But no, that's the truth. So also, we do have a responsibility to undoing that trauma that we've collected through our military or childhood years. You can't just live with it and complain. There's work that needs to be done, and whether that's putting one foot in front of the other like you do, or whether it's lifting weights in the garage or something like that, there is still stuff that needs to be done. If we're going to be men and accept that trauma that we've carried with us, we can't just expect someone else to cure it for us, can we?
No, we can't. And I wonder how that affects recruiting statistics, Tim, because when I look back now, it's sort of increasingly obvious, or it certainly is when you look at how much veterans struggle in Civvy Street. I mean, some of them struggle to stay alive. Then you think, oh my God, were we all like massively damaged when we joined up? I mean, I know that not everybody was, but I wonder what those statistics are now, Tim. Are there as many damaged young people in society? Is it softer? Are parents better? Is there less violence? Is there less sexual abuse? All those drivers that made our generation join up, or a lot of our generation. Do you think it's changed?
Well, we can only go back to what we came. I was a 74 baby, you know what I mean? I was quite lucky. I was a skateboard without a helmet on, you know what I mean? Spent most of my time outside. Obviously, because our parents chucked us outside, didn't they? And they said, come back when the street lights come on if you want to. But I don't know whether it's, I think it's harder for young people nowadays insofar as the distractions that they've got through social. But also, I think they're no real different to us. They're dealing with those, I mean, we might have had traumas through poor parenting, maybe. Let's just say that was a factor for some people. Maybe both parents had to work, you know, so they're not really around. You're not getting that kind of attention maybe you should have as a young person. But these young people are having to fend with the whole world of, you know, social 24/7, 365 comments coming in. It's a vicious world, especially when you're young. I mean, it's vicious enough, isn't it, to be on social when you're an older person, let alone when you're a younger person. So I think they're doing a good job. I think their heart's in the right place, and I think they've been let down by some people in that who should know better parent-wise, but I'm not a parent, I can't really comment, but I do think they are good. And someone was saying the other day that a lot of young people are really laughing at this whole diversity, inclusion push, the forced aspect. We all need to make sure people feel included, don't get me wrong. You know how I'm against all that stuff, especially in meritocratic organizations like the Air Force and fast jet cockpits. But the truth is, these younger people see it as a push. They see it as like this communisty, socialisty, whatever it might be, and they're really against it. They do believe in hard work, and they do believe in that. I just don't know whether they've got the ability to do it. And what I mean by that is, I don't know whether don't know whether previous generations have allowed them to have that. I mean, you know, when we were young, we could expect to get on the housing ladder, for example, Chris. You know what I mean? And I don't honestly see that as a possibility for young people unless their parents have massively helped them out. You know, I saw wage. Do you see? I read something earlier about how the UK and Europe wage since 2010 has stagnated, and everything's, you know, I guess inflation's up. I don't know. It seems to be a pretty difficult place for a young person at the moment.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? I had my first house when I was 22.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Nowadays, 22, it's not even like really an adult, is it? I don't mean that disrespectfully.
No,
I just mean that everything's so different. You're more likely to live with your parents still, and
well, you have to. You can't afford the rent probably to move out. I mean, I heard his rents in London are pretty horrific. I think people tend to be moving out of London now, from what I hear, especially remote working and things like this. I think we do need to care for these young people. I have a lot of people in my school who are in their early 20s, and I do care for them, and we do help them with job applications and things like this, and making sure they're, because I think people need to get a house. I think this is it. Young people need to get a house, need to leave the nest, need to get a house, they need to get a job, and then hopefully get a relationship, and then they can start a family if they want to, and then they can contribute towards society, knowing that they're secure. I think without security, it's very difficult for people to invest in society. And what is society to invest in at the moment, Chris, with the levels of immigration we're seeing? I don't want to be that guy that says it, you know what I mean? But it is happening all over the world to many different countries at the moment. It almost like it's planned. And I think if you're a young person and you see this, and of course you think, well, there's going to be fewer jobs, fewer houses, because of whatever immigration it might be, whether it's legal or illegal. I don't know the balance on that. I should work it out. It's not ideal for these young people at the moment. But opportunity's there for someone that's going to work quite hard, of course. There's a lot of opportunity because a lot of people won't do it, will they?
Yeah, let's stick on the immigration then thing, Tim, because I put that in the thumbnail, so there's probably a lot of people join this video to hear about that. It's pretty obvious. The destruction of Europe is underway. America likewise. Massive planned illegal immigration. Destroy the white male, because traditionally we've had community, we've had bonding. Right. We're not afraid of a scrap. But the agenda now is to sissify everyone through all this rainbow shit and get neighbours like reporting on each other because, you know, they're having a barbecue and they've got 3 people and there's a bug going around. Utter ludicrousness. And off the back of it, young people can research now, so they're not going to join the military if they know that they're just going to be working for BlackRock, essentially, and the project for New American Century and the next, you know, war for oil and Orwell's 1984.
Yeah.
But when you've got a country full of people probably haven't had the best education in the planet, probably got a basic grasp of the language, have no allegiance, no ties to the culture, don't know who the Queen was, not Not that that's anything to be proud, but you know that not that that's a linchpin of being British or English, but it. And then you offer them a salary that's probably 30, if not 50 times what they'd earn in their own country, which is half, by the way, what they'd pay me and you in the military, Tim.
Yeah.
Can we not see that suddenly we've got an army full of immigrants that will do anything that they're told to do? You know, I mean, I don't know how you feel on this, but the military are order takers at the best of times, aren't they? I mean, we didn't see any challenge by the military or the military command to the last 3 years. Bear a handful of veterans who stood up for the kids. It's hardly going to be better when our army's a foreign army.
Yeah, but I think you've got to be careful a little bit, because once you're in the military, you've got to accept the fact that you're part of that. And if someone sends you to war, you go. I remember when I went to Iraq for the first time, there wasn't a UN resolution for that particular thing back in 2003. And on the squadron, we discussed at length, is this shit legal? Like, literally, we had a lawyer come up and she said, right now it isn't legal, but by the time you get to country, hopefully it will be. It never was. There was no resolution. That fourth came after the one back in the 90s or whatever it was. So, but we decided, you know, we're in the military. If we leave, no one else is going to be able to spin themselves up on tornadoes quick enough to go out there. If you don't want to do it, we should have left before this shit happened. So you go, you get the job done, and when you come back, you start thinking about it. But I agree with what you're saying. Everything now, conflict-wise. I mean, I don't know how I must admit, I haven't heard you speak on Ukraine. We probably think very differently about it, but I'm not a huge fan of what the West has done in Ukraine at all. And I think it's killed a lot of people, but that's my opinion on it. And I can't see how that isn't an absolute travesty, to be fair, what NATO has done by pushing eastwards. Now, I know a lot of people feel differently to me, so we don't have to get into it. But I'm just saying that if I was in the military now, I'd find that very difficult. And I'd probably be looking to go, you know what, I think I've seen the writing on the wall one too many times, and I'll be leaving. I left 5 years ago, although they are asking guys like me to come back. But then when you're in the military, you don't get to decide which wars you fight. You fight the wars the government tells you to go under the direction of the king. It should be, of course, and that's what we do. I know it's not really like that, but you know what I mean. But I just don't think we can pick our wars. If you're in the military, you go and do that, and if it doesn't fit you, then when you come back, you get out and you do something else.
Yeah, I think a few people back in the day put their foot. I mean, we're talking, you know, less than a handful.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, there was a doctor up in Kinloss who was jailed. And
I think that if you were to do that in a lot of the units, they just conveniently find you a stores job back.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, of course they would. Of course they would. They sort it out. You're absolutely right. They sort it out. But no, you're right, Chris. It's a difficult one. I think when you lose the trust of, when you lose the trust of the government, it's like when you lose the trust of the, when you lose trust in the government to, I mean, you know, illegal dossiers and shit like that, weapons of mass destruction. Of course, we lost the trust in the government going back years now. I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing now is Blair and Alistair Campbell and all the problems that we had there. And the, you know, I don't see why we'd look at that any different. We know it's done in the interests of the hierarchy, the people at the very top in BlackRock, Fidelity, and all that kind of stuff, which all the politicians, of course, end up drifting into. I still believe that the military does have some good programs for young people to go in for maybe 5 to 7 years to get some aspect of a trade if they possibly can before they come out. I still recommend people going in a certain, you know, I mean, my whole background's military, me, my brother, my dad's dad, it goes on, you know what I mean? And I still recommend that because I still believe you can make a difference in the military. It might take a significant amount of personal violence, Chris, but some people need to learn. I think you can make a difference in the military with your own personal standards. If you hold yourself to account in a proper way, I think that rubs off on people. I think now with our leaders, and I can only really speak intelligently of the Royal Air Force at the moment, I do think that there's some people in those senior ranks in the Royal Air Force that have acted shamefully over the last amount of years, especially with the discrimination against young white men and the prioritization of diversity. And as I keep saying, Chris, if you're going to prioritize diversity or prioritize DEI, all that nonsense, then you do so at the sake of meritocracy, of course. You sacrifice meritocracy. And I can't see how that was ever a laudable aim for anyone. And that's why I think the military at the moment is lost. But the design is probably to make the military lost as well. Because if you really want to break up, as you said, the nuclear family, which tends to be a white, it's not a white construct, but let's say university, I think people look at it as a white construct, a European construct. Let's break up the family, go back to individualism, the core of liberalism, without getting too deep, of course, because I don't fully understand it. Then if you want to break up, then you've got to break up the military structure as well. You've got to make sure people don't join. You've got to break up policing. You've got to break up education, health, everything. I mean, it's that kind of let's tear it down so we can start again kind of activism shit that I don't understand. So
yeah, the whole diversity is from where I am in my life now, which I'll be honest, I don't I don't really know where I am. I don't even know if I exist now, Tim, which is not such a bad thing, but yeah, it's leading. The further we break everything down into groups and subgroups, the clues in the word is division.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's supposed to be, isn't it?
It's division rather than uniting.
Yeah.
Dare I say, in love, which is the highest form of energy and frequency that human beings can operate at. It's breaking it down into material, my haircut's better than your
Well, it comes down to, it's almost shameful, Chris. If you look at the energy, you're talking about the frequency charts, of course, the lower frequencies are guilt and shame. And I think when we're talking about how you can have relationships with whoever you want without any constructs or anything, then guilt will come into that and shame will come into that. And I think that's what, when we look at when they drew like crossings at Brize Norton in rainbow colors and all that kind of stuff, and little kids see that all the time. It's too early for kids to see that. They're not interested. I don't want, as I said in my latest video, 3 and 4 year olds looking at the LGBTQ movement. I don't want that. I don't want drag queens in front of kids. And if I had kids, I'd be a violent man now trying to protect that. I have children, so my violence levels are much, I'm not into that. I'm getting old now, But, if you're putting your kid into a nursery and outside they were painting a rainbow crossing, and it's not just because the colours are pretty, Chris, it's because people have got agendas, and they've got agendas on those children because they want to socialise them into sexuality early. I don't know whether I can say this on your channel, but we all see it. We all know it. There's no other reason for doing so. There's no other reason than painting a rainbow colour in the LGBTQIA PPK. There's no other reason for doing that other than to get your child interested in sexuality at an earlier stage. I'll tell you what, mate, I'll be a different man if that was my kids in that little nursery. I really would be, and they're not, luckily, because I'm going to kids. But
yes, well, Sodom and Gomorrah, isn't it? Is that?
It is.
It is. That's what it is. Something to do with the Bible, but I get it. This way's just become a joke now, hasn't it? You got I call them the Satanists. The ones that they think that they're controlling this show with their. You ever come across Sam Smith, the pop star?
Yes, I have, and his weird costumes on stage.
Yeah, he's dressed up in, like, let's just call it bondage gear. Hot pants and a tight top, even though
I've got some. Yeah.
And he's got Teletubby boots on.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And what do the British public do? Nothing. and yet, matey boy, who's who's a paediatrician, i.e. a child doctor, he gets his house burnt down.
Oh yeah, that happened in Portsmouth where I was at. Yeah,
this is the level of utter insidious brainwashing that people have been put under. But I think everything must come and go in cycles, Tim, because it's at on a level of shit. It's really shit.
Yeah, I think it does go in cycles, doesn't it? But then empires only last 250 years. I think America or global hegemony of America is coming to an end now. I think everyone can see that. I think money in America is getting out of control. If you look at the salaries that people are getting for running Burger Kings and stuff, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's unsustainable. House prices are ridiculous. I mean, you see the blue states and stuff, don't you, what's happening over there. You see the universities at the moment with the protesters for free Palestine and stuff. The whole thing is, it's just gone out. It's gone out of control. It's sort of like an end of days thing. Especially, I think if Trump gets in again this year, maybe there's a chance to save it. I hate to say it, but it will stop the whole Bidenomics type thing going on. But I look at Putin at the moment, and I see him as a conservative man who's interested in traditional values, trying to keep together the biggest country full of, you know, the whole mafiosa, whatever it might be, trying to keep that country together, and he's obviously doing a good job of doing so. I think those traditional values are what's lacking over here in the West. I think we've become very degenerate. I don't know how that stops. I honestly, Chris, when you get people wearing all that LGBT at work, in the workplace, in the military and stuff, saluting the flag, saluting the LGBT flag in the workplace, why are we bringing sexuality to work? It's like me having a picture of a woman on my desk without any clothes on, just to say I'm a heterosexual male. No one would accept that in the work, would they? You know, we used to have pictures of, remember, like Linda Lusardi and stuff in the, you know, used to page 3 girls up. And when the women came into the military, we took them all down, didn't we? It's respectful. We took them all down. They're not allowed that in the workplace. We don't care about that. And now we're getting people wearing the LGBT stuff and in work. It's not flying the LGBT flag next to the flag of the union there. I would have ripped that shit down if I'd been in when I seen that. If there would have been an LGBT flag up next to that flag, I would have climbed that flagpole myself and taken it down. I'm not having a single person on any base I worked on ever saluting a flag other than that one. The end. It's not going to happen. I saw it on warships. I saw it on Royal Air Force bases. I even saw 2 F-35 pilots in the United States holding that little LGBT flag between 2 F-35s. That stuff has to stop. Like that's not, there's no politics in the military like that. And the reason we don't allow it, because half the people will go, oh, I love it, it's amazing. And then you get guys like me that go and wail in with both fists and say, get that out. I don't want anything to do with that. That's why you don't have that politics in the military. And that's what I'm talking about, people like Putin. I'm using Putin as an example. I know how people feel about it, it's fine. But traditional values, core traditional values, fitness, family, finance, all that kind of stuff. Let's go back. Let's go for the runs. Let's lift the weights. Let's invest ourselves in the family, invest ourselves in the church. That's what people want to do. What was wrong with that? Was the world so bad back then? Because the world looks like, as you're saying, like a pile of shit right now. But back then, yeah, we had issues, but at least we had grounding. We had a foundation. It might have been a little bit conservative. Maybe we weren't involved in such rapid change, but at least everyone wasn't running around wanting to be a furry, whatever. You know what I mean? We just had some kind of self-respect, and we had some personal standards, and those manifested it into community. And that was a good thing. And I think at the moment, we're just seeing a degradation of that, unfortunately. Bit of a polemic there. I didn't mean it to be, but, you know, you get rolled up, don't you?
That's great. It means it means I don't have to talk so much.
I want to hear about you though, Chris. I want to hear about your amazing success and everything you've been doing.
Wow, mate, I'm planning on rowing the. Well, I'm not planning. I'm going to row across the Atlantic in December.
Quite big, Chris. Quite big Atlantic. At least take a compass with you, mate.
Yes. Well, and it's all GPS these days, mate. Although I am doing a navigation course as we speak. Friends at home, just to say, give us some support with this. I'll tell you what, you know, I'm raising money for service kids that basically 40% of whom their parents have committed suicide. This is the thing the military won't speak about, the government won't speak about. Why is it so many veterans, just suffer awfully with their mental health? Also raising money for charity that physically gets veterans off the streets and into training courses and accommodation. So if you can chuck us a $5, folks, there's a link below in the description box, or just help me out by sharing some stuff on social media would be great. Yeah, that's my exciting life there for you, Tim. But I tell you what, I do tend to take on a lot.
Well, yeah, you are one of life's carriers of burdens. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'll take that link and I'll put it into my school and I'll put it on my YouTube as well, because I do believe in that. I don't think people realise veteran suicide is not something people really talk about. We don't like to talk about it, do we? I mean, I tell the story all the time. People tell me I share too much. I believe in doing so helps other people realise they're not alone in doing that. But when I come out of the military, Chris, I've spoken about it before, haven't I, quite a lot. I was fully invested in killing myself for about a year and a half. Obviously not very fucking good at it, but just realised the trauma it would give to my wife, you know what I mean? And eventually, I ended up, I think a lot of things manifest themselves over a period of time. Just you end up distancing yourself from the military. You end up trying to eat better, which is an absolute nightmare, of course, when you're in a weird headspace. And then through nutrition, and you try and exercise, and you just get outside. And I think the key is to be in nature, really, and grounded with literally feet in in the ground. But I went through some horrendous time when I left, and so I'm fully invested in veterans when they come out. I don't think I think it's so traumatic. It's so difficult to explain why as well. It's almost chaos, Chris. You come out of the military, and the whole world here, it doesn't do anything like you expect it to do. I was turning up to meetings, you do, you've got to watch accurate to the second because we're fucking legends. And so you turn up to meetings 5 seconds ago, shut the door, empty room. And you're there going, where the fuck is everyone? Empty room. And like, you're there in the room going, have I been, no, it's definitely, and you phone people, is it definitely meeting at 2? Is it meeting at 2? Meeting at 2? Yeah. Where is everyone? Oh mate, we're coming. People trickle in. That destroyed me from when I've been flying, like to the second, hack to the second. People could walk into a brief to go flying, and as long as that door shut and their bums on the seat, when the guy in front of them went hack, nothing said. We're all busy. So literally hack, right? 1,400 guys. Today's aim is blah, 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 safety considerations, start at AirX, recovery. No one cares if you're there to the second. If you're 1 second late, that's what we're going to talk about in the debrief. And that's the level you got to work to. 1 fucking second late. I remember I never missed a Met brief, like a meteorologist, like a morning brief. Never missed one in 20 years. I'm walking past the Met brief, went in, sat down, and I saw someone walk to the door, and I was thinking, "Don't come in, mate," because literally we started like 3 seconds in. Don't walk in that door, and he didn't. He walked straight past, because no one's going to walk in a brief late, because it just proves that you've got low personal standards. You're never going to do it. Just don't bother turning up, mate. If you can't be there to the second, don't. How if you can't be to a brief in a squadron to the second, are you going to be able to hit the target on time when we're in airplanes being shot at? You can't even do it inside a building. So when you come out of the military, and that doesn't work like that out here, I found that so traumatizing. Like, I'm used to it now. I've adapted to the chaos out here, and actually I enjoy it. I really like the fact now I haven't got to work to the second. But when I was in the military, it was when I came out. First off, I was always having a panic attack, like for about a year across my chest, and eventually went down my left arm. And I thought I'm having a fucking heart attack. So I went to Hereford Hospital, my nearest hospital, and I said, if I'm having a heart attack, can I just be in here? And the young girl there was like, yeah, sit down if you want. And eventually they strapped me up, Chris. You know what I mean? They went, it's not a heart attack, mate. It's a panic attack. And this doctor talked me through it, and he said, loads of the guys from Hereford, loads of guys from Sterling Lions do the same thing. So they just don't get used to the whole city world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's I'd say probably the last two most important communications I've had in probably since my son was born, and that was 9 years ago. The two subsequent most important, we're talking, a lot is resting on this relationship that I've got with this person for reasons of business, I mean, not a social relation. And they've let me down in a text, Tim. A fucking text. I need to add this, and they were both military,
It's weird.
It's the...
Why not just give you a call, Chris?
Well, here's the thing. Everyone's just becoming wankers, mate. Everyone.
Yeah, but
you walk into a meeting like you were talking about. Fuckers don't even look up to say hello when you walk through the door anymore. They just
don't stand up.
They're either sat staring at the floor, sat staring at their phone, or pretending that they're checking what they've got for lunch. It's like,
I found that odd.
I know you're like me. You walk into the room. Hello, folks. Everyone all right? Right. Is this seat taken? Hello. What's your name? I'm Chris. And I'm not even blaming the people, Tim, although, you got to take some self-responsibility in life. It's that everyone's so damaged now. They're so insidiously, surreptitiously, massively damaged. It's like they've had their heart ripped out by everything. The social media, the Hollywood brainwashing, the
talk about
the music industry that for your whole life, unbeknown to you, has actually been telling you you're basically a fucking loser who no one's ever going to love. That's that's for glamorous people. And yes, so it's it's yes, I get it. I mean, I totally get it. You can see. I have to be kind of careful how I say this because people get upset. I'm sort of generalising, but I'm not sort of meaning to stigmatise. But you can see now how heavily invested individuals are in their appearance. Well,
I think you're probably right. Yeah,
you know, let's be honest. We're all pretty much the bloody same when it comes down to it. Except men have got a winky and women have got a whatever
Are you sure, Chris? Are you sure?
I'm not.
That's not true.
Well, that's something else again. But
You'll be called names. You will.
It's this thing that it's getting so far. You can see how everyone's been indoctrinated to go so far away from unity consciousness, which is love,
yeah,
united.
I agree.
You know, we are all the same. I like chatting to you, Tim, because you like me and I like you, and you know, and it's a nice vibe. You know, we probably have different opinions on all kind of things, but the respect is there. You know, and it's the same when we're talking about war. Do I support it? No, I support love. Is that war bombing them kids? Is that about love? It's either a yes or no answer, is it? If the answer is no, it's going to hurt someone. Well, we've got to rethink it then, haven't we? We've got to rejig it so it comes from a place of love and compassion and empathy and kindness and understanding the complexities of life that lead these situations to occur. But going back to the identity thing, you know, the controllers, they want everyone insecure, desperately looking in the mirror every 5 minutes. How do I look now? You know, oh, what bloody plastic surgery do I have next because I wasn't born good enough? And it's the complete opposite message they should be getting, which is we're all born perfect. You know, well, okay, you know, there's challenges. There's always challenges, but we're all born perfect. We're all massively loved, and yet we're never told that. We don't even realize how many people out there think the world of us. And you don't need to do anything except just have a good time and turn the bloody TV off. That's it. That's
Well, I mean, I was born a Catholic, so I'm born original sin. So, you know, I'm struggling from the moment I was born. No, but I know what it's saying, absolutely. But then you're not going to become wealthy, Chris, unless you start wars, of course, are you, and benefit from the defense industry. So this is why you and I run YouTube channels and not Lockheed Martin, basically. But then again, I do believe that karma comes around those people. I really do. There's no two ways about it. I don't think you can live with that trauma of what. This is why I left defense. I left defense for 2 reasons. But the main reason was I was in defense when I left the military. And I thought, I don't want to be doing this. Like literally, it was on the Future Combat Aircraft System, FCAS. And I thought, this is probably never going to happen. Let's be realistic. We're going to buy more F-35s. But also, this is bollocks. Like, it's absolute bollocks. Everything we're talking about is rubbish. It's probably never going to go on. Drone technology is going to take over. We're making these projects. We're doing all these things to see whether this is viable. And I don't want to be any part of it. I was traveling with Steven the whole time. And I was traveling to London, and it was an absolute waste. And also, I felt this intrinsic, internal sort of self-hatred. Like, I don't want to be doing this. I felt when I was teaching students, at least I was doing something reasonably beneficial. I felt I was keeping them alive a little bit, you know what I mean, and helping them out. But when I was doing this defense stuff, Chris, it was it really wasn't the best jobs in the world, to be fair. And I know people now that are still stuck in defense, and of course, the longer you're in defense, the longer you sort of harder it is for you to get out, if that makes sense. So it's
yes. Well, we were chatting about this earlier, weren't we? I was telling you the story of someone who shall remain anonymous, but our last chat when it came to providing content on YouTube was one of a spiritual sort of, you know, at the end of the day, you have a social responsibility that there's a lot of people out there will sort of follow you, and you've got to kind of have some sort of moral compass, and I mean, and then suddenly you go and check on your buddy there, and they're on their way to 1 million subscribers by doing, for example, fear porn. What they're going to do to you today, or by going full on military without any acknowledging whatsoever that basically every war that we've ever had shown to us by Hollywood is a load of the story's Mickey Mouse.
Of course it is.
Even the Falklands, and that Falklands brings tears to my eyes when I think what some of my buddies had to do down there. But then you hear about the Falklands Company. Oh, right. Oh, I didn't know about that little chestnut, that actually the Falklands isn't owned by the Falkland Islands, it's owned by a corporation. And then you hear that Margaret Thatcher had a peace negotiation on the table, sent by communication. I think it was it was settled by somewhere obscure, like Yugoslavia or somewhere. And the signal, that's the telegram, folks, conveniently went missing until after the task force, and it's it's a funny one. The whole YouTube thing's a funny one, isn't it?
Depends what you want to do though, Chris. I mean, really depends what you want to do. I always say this to people, like, you can have 100,000 subscribers or whatever, you can have 1 million subscribers, but does anyone want to talk to you? Like, literally, I know lots of people that make these videos. I use Digital Combat Sim, and they make great Digital Combat Sim films, but you're never going to ask them to come and chat to you here and to talk to you about these heavily nuanced subjects, unless you're interested in filmmaking on a video game. Yeah, I'm interested in talking to you because you think about things. You're a deep thinking man, and you're like a poet. You know what I'm saying? And there's not enough poets in the world. You're a guy that thinks things through. And I'm not saying I think you're right all the time, but I'm not saying that I also know a lot about what you're talking about sometimes. So I can defer to the research that you've done that I haven't done. So I'll be like, I'll go listen to Chris on that, because at least he's done the reading. I haven't even done any reading on it, you know what I mean? So we may not get the massive YouTube subscribers, but also, do you ever want those YouTube subscribers? Like, if you're putting out content, this is what I don't understand. If you're putting content out that you don't believe in, you're going to get subscribers that you don't want. It's the same thing. Who wants that? It doesn't make sense to me to have all those people around that you generally wouldn't want to speak to. All my subscribers, right, on my channel, I'd happily meet up with them. Like, if I'm in Cheltenham or Bristol, hey mate, I'm a sub on your channel. Yeah, let's go have a cup of tea, mate, because they're obviously interested in things I'm in. And I'm drifting away more from, I do a bit of military content because I care about how the military is. And the reason I care is I've got a nephew and nieces, and they may enter the military, and I don't want it to be a bag of wank when they go in, you know what I mean? But there's other things I'm interested in as well. I'm interested very much in how we take these burdens that we've got, Chris, these rocks we're carrying, this trauma that we have from childhood, all through military experience, and we do something with it that's positive. So it doesn't matter what it is, but we need to do something with it. We can't just sit there and whinge about the fact that we're feeling sad or some shit, or we're suicidal. And of course, we've all been through that. We've got to do something with it. And that's what I'm interested in. I'll be 50 this year. If I can be an example of someone that's come out of the military flying fast jets, gone through alcoholism, suicidal ideation, etc., whatever it might be, marriage, fucking broken marriage issues that I've managed to rebuild at the moment. But if I can be that guy that says, yeah, I understand. The thing is, people expect life to be this easy journey. Never in the history of human, never has life been ever probably easier than it is right now, more comfortable than it is right now. And yet probably never are we more struggling with it. Does that make sense? Like we got to find a purpose or some shit. It's like, as you said, you've got to be connected with other people. You've got to feel that connection. You've got to involve yourself in that. I mean, I row down a rowing club. I row in a boat with 3 other dudes, big men, and you're unified in that. It's not about one person anymore. It's about all of you. So the boat succeeds or fail as four men, not one. If one of us, we've got to row on Sunday in a big race, heavy boat, all of us 100 and something kilograms. If someone gets an oar caught in the water, which can happen, that boat will lose that race. And the race lasts for, I think, about 2 minutes 50. It's a full-on fast race, you know what I mean? No one blames that one dude. We should have trained better so it didn't happen. It's not that guy's fault, it's the boat's fault. We weren't good enough. So I think we've lost that community aspect. We lost that community spirit. This is the problem. We're going back into individualism or liberalism, in effect, where we concentrate on our own, as you're saying, the way we look, the way we feel. You know, I want to be me. It's all about me, isn't it? It's about me having a great car, me doing this. And I move away from it, Chris. I'm completely against that now almost. It's like, I'm trying to go through. I've gone through all the habits, like poor habits, and I've got rid of all of those now, as best I possibly can. But now I'm looking at things like envy and pride and working through those as well, which are much harder to undo. Jealousy, ego, that kind of stuff. And how can I overcome that? How can I work through those things? How can I manifest those things so I can be selfless and I can be sacrificial to the people around me? I think only when you're doing things for other people, only when you truly are doing things for other people, do you feel a sense of contentment. It's never going to be happiness. It's going to be contentment. You can sleep at night and wake up in the morning thinking, yeah, I've got to do more for other people. I've got to, you know what I mean? It probably doesn't make sense. I'm probably not explaining it properly, but that's how I feel about it. I don't think it's about myself anymore.
Got to be in service, mate, haven't we, really?
I think we do. I think that's what I missed from instructions. I felt I was. I do miss that. However, again, you're always looking after your career and stuff. It is about you because it has to be. And everything's about us, Chris, isn't it? We're in our own heads so much all the time. I think this is the problem. I think this is what people, especially in the military, miss about combat. You haven't got time to think about yourself. Just combat. Innit? People trying to kill you all the time. It's really just about, I need to solve these problems really quickly. And then you come out into Civvy Street and that doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what my trauma was when I came out into Civvy Street. I think a lot of my trauma, if I'm honest, Chris, I don't want to be about me because I talk about other people quite a lot, but I think other people have this aspect themselves, is leadership, or what I felt the issue was with leadership in the military. I felt it should have been more sacrificial, more selfless, less ego driven. And in the Air Force, it did seem to be the way that if you played the game, you did get up that ladder to the top quite rapidly. And I knew a lot of guys, not saying there weren't good guys up there and good girls up there, but I think a lot of people were very much in it for themselves. They didn't really care about the Air Force at all. And I've seen this now. I had an email this morning from a Royal Marine who was saying the same thing about the Corps, which is quite upsetting to hear about because, of course, your attachment with the Corps, and my father was in the Corps, of course. So, obviously you and him are both Royal. I always felt the Marines wasn't like that, but I guess as it gets smaller, opportunities get less. You probably have to be more selfish as a leader in order to get yourself up that ladder. You know what I mean?
I'm not. I had a Marine buddy of mine was chatting to me back along, and he said, "Chris, it's just not." He said, "When you served back in there," he says, "it's just nothing like that anymore." And I'm not here for anyone listening. I don't care. I joined the Marines about 38 years ago or something. It's really, I just don't care. So don't bother messaging me with anything because I don't care. Literally, all I care about is fighting a spiritual battle. But what he said was, he said the way the lads that they're recruiting now, he said, Chris, he said the situation the other day where we were waiting to go somewhere and they were all just like lying down on the ground. He said in a way that, when you just would never have, you wouldn't just lie down round about camp, for example. I mean, obviously on exercise, you'd pull up a sandbag or whatever.
Around camp. No, you don't want people to see it, do you?
And he said, and when the sort of, corporal says, right, fellas, they're all like, yeah, fuck. Yeah. This is what he was saying. I don't know because I haven't, I haven't been involved for so long.
Different
but
times. Yeah.
I do think, and then on the other hand, I saw some nice things. The last time I was at Lympstone Commando, after the lads finished doing the fireman's carry, they all give each other a hug. It's like we didn't even know what a hug was when we joined.
That's a really interesting one because I have a physicality issue, so that's interesting. You're telling me that they're actually doing a physical embrace there, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, they've all got like a water bottle hanging off their finger.
Really?
It's hydration. Not a bad thing, but we never, I think you got a drink on your 9-mile speed march. You stopped after about 6 miles and you necked a load of ogging and off you went again. And obviously on the 30 miler, but other than that, you didn't carry drinks with you anywhere. Things change. Things do change, but they'll change even more when we've got an immigrant army, and you can see. Have you seen this? Is it a senator in America or some politician he said that America now needs to consider giving amnesty to their illegal immigrants so that they can join the military, because they too are suffering a recruiting shortage.
Yeah, I'm quite wary of things that have come out of context. I did see clips, but you only see a clip of something. I'm like, what's the full story here? But I get what you're saying, absolutely. The thing about it is, this is why the Royal Air Force is trying to recruit fast jet instructors back again. At some point, you've got to compromise on it. If you can't sustain your armed forces as you would normally like with the people you'd have to do something. So, I mean, and the problem is when you get to the highly specialized roles, I mean, fast jet instructor, I guess, would probably fall into that. What do you do? Because you can send them overseas. We sent guys to America, to France, to Italy. I know we've got guys over in the school there, but they get full pretty quickly, and now you can't train them. And we did say this could be a problem, so we did kind of warn the Air Force on this. But they're not as if they're saying, come back and we'll give you a massive bonus and keep you in. It's come back on the terms that you left on. It's like, well, I left on those terms already. Why has anything changed? But you're right. It's I don't know. I used to look at, I trained a lot of minorities and stuff in the military. I didn't see any problem with them at all. Of course I didn't, because they're all British men and women, but they had backgrounds in Great Britain. So they had fathers and fathers' fathers, and they had historic connections with the military going back generations. The problem with immigrants coming over is they don't have that, of course. And that's the biggest issue. And they can always leave. They can always go home again when things get tough. That's the problem. When you talk about your spiritual battle, Chris, I'm interested in you teaching me something here, because I talk about spirituality to my men. So a spiritual battle is obviously something that's reasonably, quite personal, isn't it, to an individual? So I find that quite interesting, because, of course, the spiritual battle for, say, an immigrant might be, I want to come to the UK. I was watching a story on an Indian man the other night whose whole family was in the UK, and he loves it, and his family, that guy is British as they come. He's first generation, his kids are second generation, but he's probably more British than some British people, and he's come over from India. But some immigrants, of course, aren't. They keep that door open, don't they? They go back to wherever they go on holiday every year, don't they? And then they take the benefits and stuff like that. They're fighting their own spiritual journey, I guess, which I would suggest they've probably got quite a lot of work to do. Is that the sort of spiritual journey that you're talking about? Is it an individual one, is it?
Oh, gosh.
And you must have, obviously you've got a journey you're going through, and you're still going through it. And I know a lot of veterans, when they come out of the military, do have that journey. And a lot of people don't go through it and they hang themselves, don't they? But I look at it as work. I look at it as, I think a video on this, didn't I, recently, where I was trying to work out what the term was. I don't think we came up with the term. I did. I came up with suffering. And I'm not saying that was the correct word, Chris, at all. That's the whole point of the video, was like, what's this word I'm trying to find? Because I'm using suffering right now. Whereas, is it sacrifice? Is it endurance, endeavor? And I think people came out with endeavor was a good word. But I'll
tell you what, Tim, a great analogy, I'm going to call it great because I've invented it. It's like Mount Everest, right? It's like climbing Mount Everest. You got your base camp there, where everyone's milling around, and the majority of people are there are not mountaineers. They're, and that's akin to your general public. They're busy. They haven't got the motivation to want to change their life, but because they don't need to, they're kind of happy with their lot. They don't mind the 9 to 5. They come back, maybe love a soap opera or two, and that's all fine, isn't it? But then you get the guys like us. We realise there's something ain't quite right in base camp. It seems good on the surface, but underneath there's some big lie going on. Something, the people controlling it, they haven't got our best interest, and they're going to screw us at every single opportunity in ways that the majority don't even notice. So we set our sights on Camp 1, don't we, up the glacier. And we're like, right, I wonder what it's like there. Let's go there. Let's learn some stuff on the way. Let's broaden our knowledge. And you get there and you look back down at base camp and think, I can't believe I used to be there with that mentality, thinking that and doing that, and whoa. And as you progress, you realize more about yourself. You understand yourself and nature. You get a better understanding of your mind, your motivations, your strengths, your weaknesses. You reflect on your life and your history, and you can see, right, perhaps I ventured to Camp 1 because of that unpleasant experience I had in childhood that I want answers for, or subliminally I want answers for. And then, of course, you're right. Well, I've come here. I'm going to keep going. This is great. It's almost like a dream come true. So you go to Camp 2, and you make a load of headway. You get the similar growth. You start to realise the distance between you. You're going into the light, and you got the people down there, in the sort of darkness. But then, of course, you can't stay there permanently, because along comes a storm or some bad weather, or a blizzard, and it fights you back down again, and you slide back down that mountain for a bit. And sometimes you have to sit your ass. You're never going to go back to base camp, but you might have to go back to Camp 1 and sit it out there for a bit and get your head in the right place. And it's like, right, let's go for it again. And you go for it again. You blitz Camp 2, you're up to Camp 3, and it's just everything's rosy, everything's good. And then finally, through this process, you make the summit. That's it. Let's call that enlightenment. You get it. Energy, vibration, frequency, love. That's it. You are universe. Universe is you. There is no division. There is no other. Everything's interconnected. But then, of course, even on that summit, bad weather comes in, doesn't it? And no matter how your crowning glory, you think you got there, you bloody get battered down again. And depending on the nature of your battle, why we call it spiritual battle, depends how far you get knocked back down. But of course, the most important thing is to get up and focus. That's your meditation, and clear your mind, and boom, and sort of go for it again. And the equipment you need to get up that mountain is you need moderate exercise, because you need to breathe or you don't reset your central nervous system. A hot shower, cold shower, that's like when we lived in the forest, we'd get wet because we didn't have houses, and then we get dry again. And a massive buzz comes from that process. That's the vagus nerve, because nature's really clever like that. And then you've got to get your diet back to nature, which is why I'm always talking about pH balance, Doing
your alkaline stuff.
Yeah, you got to have, your body is a living organism, but it's also a receiver and a transmitter, like a crystal. You are everything, but you got to be the right frequency to pick it all up. And if you've got a toxic, acidic body, just like a battery, if it's got the wrong pH, it won't work. It's the same for our bodies. So you will be miserable, and you will be wondering why my life's a bit pants and everyone else seems to do quite sort of well. And then, of course, you've got to be on good terms with all people. So bygones have to be bygones, and you got to leave the past behind because it physically doesn't exist. And that's just depression if you wallow in the past, and a lot of people do, especially people that struggle with alcohol. And of course, the future doesn't exist either, and that's just anxiety. So it really is learning to live in the now, and then it gets a bit complex, because we're born, we die. Is it maybe not arrogance to think we can have any effect in the middle? I don't know. I've got that from watching Shogun the other night.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I apparently have to at some point.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first series back in the 80s, and so here's the thing: we can't affect we can't take on the immigration crisis. We can't take on the bogus health narratives. We can't take on the corrupt government. We can't make everybody eat vegetable, more vegetables, I should say, and get nice and alkaline and get not that lovely buzzy feeling. You can't make people stop hating on people. You can't stop the international banking fraternity being massive, huge criminals. You can't stop the military-industrial complex profiting off the massacring of children. You can't stop the oil and the gas companies pillaging the earth and having no plan in place. What you can't affect all of that, because you'd die of a heart attack, or you'd be stressed out. You'd have a stroke in a year, or whatever. Plus the fact you'd be horrible to be around. But what we can do, Tim, is we can go within, can't we? We can work on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because, it's like this. This is the mistake the country's making. You don't help, and you're going to have to excuse my language here. I'm being... can't think of the word, not facetious, but you don't help shitholes by turning your country into a shithole. You help struggling nations by looking after your own, by setting a gleaming example of this is democracy, this is family, this is society, this is egalitarianism, this is a forward-thinking, progressive government that looks at how can we stop destroying the planet. And you guys down there in Africa, you want to aspire to be us. And do you know what? Start focusing on getting rid of your corrupt politicians. That's the way forward. Because one thing, I was chatting with a life coach once. He said, Chris, how do you help a poor person? I started to think, well, what do you do? Pretend like you're poor? Or he says, don't be poor. He said, how do you help a sick person? Don't be sick. How do you help a depressed person? Don't be depressed. Even I got it after the third example. And yes, and this is the thing with spiritual battle, Tim. And I'm not, I probably know more than most people, but I'm in no way am I sort of an expert, and I'm still figuring out an awful lot of stuff out. But I know in myself when I'm good, and when I'm good is when I'm laying off alcohol, when I'm not working too hard, when I get up nice and early and I go out for my jog round the block, get in a plunge pool and a sauna, when I'm laying off the crap because I'm a terrible binge eater. I'll eat a lovely healthy meal, and then them packers of crisps start calling, and then but I know what works for me, and I know what kind of person I am to be around when I'm fighting my spiritual. I'm a good person to be around. I'm there for my friends, my family. Literally the complete opposite of when I'm on the booze. When you just become like, I'll be careful what I say, because I know a lot of people out there are struggling, but you do become very me. It's about self-medicating my mood, It's all about me, isn't it? And I'm not saying people can't be good parents or whatever if you've got a substance problem, but so that's the thing, Tim. And here's the thing. I'm ex-military. I joined one of the toughest militaries on the planet. I literally try not to hurt flies now. You ain't going to get me to want to bomb Palestine or Israel for that matter, or Ukraine, sorry, never going to happen. Ever. And, well, if the whole world had a bit of what I'm on, surely we'd be on our way to solving a lot of the issues,
Yeah, maybe that's your goal though, Chris. That's what you're there for, isn't it?
Say again, mate.
That's your goal, though, isn't it? That's what you're there for. So your goal is to propagate and resonate outwards the spirit that you hold within you, that you've done work on. Therefore, people will see you and go, well, I can do that as well. I mean, you talked about substance abuse, and this is one of the things I talk to my students on. It's like, I'm an almost 50-year-old dude, and I'm never going to drink again. And stopping drinking for me was a massive deal. I'm 15 months out of it now. I still miss it sometimes. I wouldn't say the world is any better for me or worse not having it. Of course it is, but I can't see it that way. But it helps other men, doesn't it? You go, well, hang on a second. If there was a fast jet pilot, got himself fucked up with alcohol over the last 20 years, whatever, 30 years, and he managed to stop, then maybe I can as well. And if we can give something back to the world like that, it's a little bit, then that person gives something back to their family. And that family can grow, give something back to another family. And that's why I think the work on the individual is so important, because you lead by example. Then I don't want to go to my gym. You don't want to go and run around. You probably do because you're mental, but you probably want to go and do all these runs. But a lot of times I don't want to go to my gym and lift stuff, but I go anyway. And I feel like I'm not lifting for myself. I'm lifting for that dude in another gym somewhere that also doesn't want to be lifting. He doesn't want to be doing that. But if he does, maybe he'll live for a few months longer, and maybe his family will get some strength from him. So maybe our role on this planet is to set examples for others to follow. It's what integrity is, isn't it? It's doing the right thing even though no one's watching. And I think maybe that's the idea of what we can do as men, is to work our own personal spiritual battles, whatever that might be. I don't even talk about that much. I mean, on YouTube I do sometimes talk about it, you know what I mean? But I don't feel the need to talk about it as such, but I know people like or enjoy hearing me talk about it. Well, I was talking the other night, Chris, I talked about when I was flying jets, I used to bite my nails all the time like that. I never thought anything of it until I left. I couldn't stop it. Nothing I did ever stopped it. And then when I left flying back in 2018, within about 3 months, it stopped, went away by itself. So I looked it up, did loads of work on it, tried to work out what it was. It's called wolf biting. Wolves, when they get trapped in snares, they eat their leg off to escape. And something in us has that same innate spirit. And so when we feel trapped, and I obviously felt trapped in the Air Force, so by feeling trapped, we're doing that gnawing away, eating, loads of pilots, loads of Marines, loads of soldiers have written to me, police officers saying, that's the weirdest thing. I bite my nails as well. I bite all the skin around my things here. That's the strangest thing. I've been thinking about my position. I do feel a bit trapped, actually. Yeah, because I can't just leave without the pension not here. I can't just. So it's amazing how we can give that one small lesson to some people and it resonates so well. And that's why I had a priest write to me this morning saying, don't tell everyone everything about yourself on the internet. I said, what if that is my fucking purpose? What if it's my purpose to humiliate myself as much as I possibly can throughout life in order for someone else to just get a bit of benefit, like get that little leg up they need, and now they can go, now they can get on their way. They can just drop alcohol, or they can just start eating healthily, or they can just get to the gym maybe, and now they're away. Now everyone follows them. All their family starts doing something healthy, and their kids grow up better. What if it's my job to bring myself down, to humiliate myself to a level by telling you all about my failings, all about my alcoholism, all about the marriage problems, all about everything else I've done wrong on myself, flying jets and all that, every time I failed, all of that someone else can just find some equal level and go, well, if Tim's a fuck up, then I can be as well. And if Tim can do something about it, then maybe I can as well. It might be a small thing, Chris. I'm not saying that I have the answers at all, but I do think maybe that's what you're pretty good at. You probably don't realize it. And I do think maybe that's the goal that we all have, is to maybe, because I'll tell you what's funny, Chris, is I make these videos like you do on YouTube. And sometimes people write to me and they're like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, so fucking obvious. Sometimes I'm saying stuff going, I did one the other night, didn't I? Saying, nowhere in a fast jet do you put in what ethnicity you are, and it doesn't know, the jet doesn't know you're like a woman or a man. It just wants to know how good you are. If not good enough, it's just going to kill you. People are like, whoa, that's crazy. It's like, it's not. It's a fucking fast jet, mate. It's a piece of metal with some TV screens in it and a few computers, and it carries bombs. But it doesn't care that you're a young black man from inner city London. It doesn't care that you're a 5'2" woman. It doesn't care that you're a 6'1", 230-pound man. It doesn't fucking care. It's going to kill you. It's looking to kill you. That's what it's trying to do. When it's just trying to kill you, full stop. It wants you to be good so that you can both come home. And yet I tell people that sometimes. They're like, I haven't really thought about that before. It's like, yeah, ethnicity doesn't matter. This whole gender shit doesn't matter. This whole fucking diversity thing doesn't matter. But meritocracy and excellence do. Excellence matters a lot. Being excellent and striving every day to be a little bit better, that matters a lot. And it's really easy to do because nobody else is doing it. that's what I tell my young men and women that are in my school. I'm like, you guys are lucky as anything because we're doing lots of work in this school. It's a digital flight school online. You know what I mean? It's not. But I said, we're doing some really hard work here. And really, no one else is doing it. So everyone else is sitting around whinging about how hard the life is. And that's something I was going to talk about when we talk about stripping things bare, climbing to Everest, which is now called the Chris Thrall Everest analogy, which I'm going to use now for everyone. The Chris Thrall, when we talk about Chris Thrall Everest analogy, and before you know it, you'll be like, making it rain with the money that's coming. I'll be like, I knew Chris before he made it. Me and Chris, we go back a long way. I'll be like that. You'll be like, I don't know, Tim. I've never seen him before in my life. I'm like, Chris, buddy, Chris, what's up?
Ironically, the first thing I'd spend that money on would be to climb Everest.
Yeah, I bet you would. You'd be thrown up there. You'd be like, oh, it's the Chris Thrall analogy. Like that, would you? Yeah. Getting all the pictures up there, making bank on that. But sometimes I feel we've got to strip that ego away from ourselves, and that's a difficult thing. We've got to allow people to literally throw their spears at us, understanding that that's just projection. It's nothing about us necessarily. It's more about them. I get a lot of hate all the time, but as I'm almost 50 now, I'm kind of all right with it. I'm like, yes, it's fine. Say things about me. I understand that I'm not getting everything right, but we're exploring, Chris. We're trying to understand. And that's a lot more than most people are doing. Most people aren't ever trying to understand. They're not looking at the causes of wars or the what banks do, or the fact that the senior military might be complicit in what, you know, they're not interested in that, what newspapers are doing, or they don't care. They're just watching, as you said, soap operas. And again, that's all right. I don't mind that, but we're going to get spears from people that aren't interested in that exploration. I get so much hate sometimes. When you get so much hate, you realize it's not real. They don't really hate you. And if they stood in a room with you, they're probably like, oh, I'm sorry that I wrote that really nasty thing about you. It's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. I've written nasty things about other people as well myself sometimes when I felt low on my frequency chart, when I'm in my low frequency, when I've been in that low frequency state, I know that I'm hating on people. What I need to do, Chris, is go out to my garage and lift weights and move more. You know what I mean? Eat something healthily, maybe get the right sleep, drink some water, be with other people to get that frequency higher. So I'm in a higher frequency state, because when I'm in a higher frequency state, we're connecting with each other, aren't we? We're helping each other. But when we're in a low frequency state, we're very insular. I think, as you're right, I think there's been a lot of trauma that's happened in society ever since, I don't know whether we can say what, you know, the thing is, we can't, you know, ever since the thing, the message, ever since that thing happened, I think people have lost that connection. And then people are, you know, I think with immigration and stuff, people are really stirring that pot as well. And I get it. I understand why, because it's fear, and we're fearful. We're like, make it stop, make the bad things stop. And then there's wage deflation, and then there's, you know, we worry about food, and we worry about everything. We worry about jobs, and so everyone is scared. Everyone's less connected, I think. And if you try and connect, people are very they're not receptive to it. You know what I mean? They're defensive to that connection. People don't tend to phone. If someone phones me up now, I'm going, who's phoning me? Who is phoning me on my phone? Like, why not send me a text? Who's phoning me here? How dare you phone me up? I think one of the comedians was doing it about someone knocking on the door, like, who's at the door? Who's at the door? We used to just open the door. Hello, mate, what's up? Now we're like leopard crawling towards that shit, fucking periscope through the window. Who's knocking on my door at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? So we're not connected in that way anymore. And I think that has a massive effect. I've been thinking recently, I said to my wife, I said, because she's wondering out when to retire. She can't retire. She's a chiropractor, you know what I mean? If you haven't got enough money. And I said, we can sell everything. This is my crazy idea. You'll love this one. I said, we can move to Norway or some shit. And in Norway, everyone's really kind of like isolated anyway. You know, the Norwegians tend to be very like, not really getting on. So we'd fit in quite well. And we get like a little hut up in North Norway. And we go skiing every day on these little trails. And then we just hunt for maybe the odd fox or something to eat in the evening. And that's the life. And then you perish in your 70s or whatever, and that's not a bad life, I suppose. It's got to be something else, though, Chris. It's got to be something better than what we're doing. But then again, that's a very arrogant way, isn't it? Like, other people in other countries would be saying, there must be something better, and they're living in a mud hut somewhere. So I just think we've lost something, because if we have this much affluence and wealth, and we're this comfortable, but we're missing something so core, what is it? Because I tell you what, Chris, if we were 90 years old, we'd give all our wealth to be the age we're at now. Everything, every penny. We'd be like 90 years old going, fucking have everything. I want to be 50 again. I mean, I'm 50. Obviously, you're 27. We all know that, right? Like a vampire and shit. But for me, us old boys here, not Dracula in the corner there, sitting there with a massive YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, I'd give it everything. I'd be like, have all my money. I want to be 50 years old again. I want to be able to run around. I want to be able to leap about the place. I want to be able to be healthy, you know, touch wood and shit like that. Because I tell you what, when you get ill and you think that might be terminal, nothing else matters, Chris. It's fully focused on that shit. You give everything away. I think sometimes we need to concentrate on that a little bit. Like, we are lucky and we are trying. I think what men do is quite interesting. It's like, I've got a great garage out there, I've got a great gym kit in it. I can make it better. So I need to tweak little bits and pieces because that's what we try and do. If I had the exercise bike, it'd be better. Well, it's a great exercise. And I'll go researching exercise bikes online. All of it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I've got to kind of go, I've got a great gym. I've got outdoors. I'm healthy. You know what I mean? I eat well, carrying a few pounds, winter weight. That's how I look at it anyway. You know, that's my excuse. But we're all going to get rid of it. I'll come rowing you across the Atlantic. That'll go, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? We've got to sit naked though. They do that, don't they? When they row across the Atlantic, they're all naked for chafing. So I just think sometimes we miss out, Chris. We miss the things we should be concentrating on. And we are lucky and we get insular, and that's what you and I do. But the truth is, we're probably not doing too badly as a race.
Yes, I think your observation there, I'd say I'd probably give any money, all the money I had, to have the health, to have perfect health, which, give or take like a few niggles, I don't feel I'm doing too. Like a lot of my mates now, Tim, they're getting hip transplants and knee transplants. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's the truth.
What the fuck have you been putting in your body? They all want to write it off to military service, but I'd wager it's more diet related. You know, well, if you have an acid diet your whole life, your knee joints are bathed in acid your whole life. So it's not rocket science to see why they, start wearing out. But what I was going to say is, you do a bit of life coaching, I do some life coaching. Do you ever get these clients or potential clients that they write to you and it's like they know everything already?
I say to them, you come to me. I had a guy before this call, in fact, asking about his YouTube channel. I've had a couple of guys like this recently. Like, I'm not an expert, but he was asking about thumbnails and titles. There's a lot out there on this. And yet he's questioning everything I'm telling him. And I'm like, he's a lovely bloke as well. There's been a lot of guys. It's very defensive. I mean, people are defensive now. I think there's a lot to be said for saying, look, I need to learn here, and then just shut up. You know what I mean? I need to learn. I'm just going to shut up and listen. I'm going to listen to what this guy says. I try and do that a lot. I try and say, listen, I'm just not going to contribute here. But this guy was trying to tell me his thumbnails are working, and he's getting eight views or 120 views on a video that he puts out once every 2 weeks. I'm like, but they're not working, are they, mate? Because people aren't watching them. So we can work. We can stop the scroll, all that kind of stuff, coloration, contrast, all the things that we all know, title, adhesion, to things like this. How can we get that? How can we do that? He didn't want to listen at all. Yet he's come to me, and he's not paying for it. You know what I mean? He's a mate of mine. Maybe that's the problem though, because he's a mate, isn't he? So yeah, I don't do as much of that as I used to. I was chatting to a Formula One team a couple of weeks ago, in fact, and they afterwards they said, wasn't the kind of talk we were expecting. I did it. I went down there pre-season pretty much, so, and they said it's more about like kind of how high performance can cause significant emotional turmoil in your life. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much what I was saying. You know what I mean? It's that fun fall from grace thing, isn't it? But they wanted a high power talk, like how, I said, that's going to fucking destroy people. That shit, all that kind of bollocks that you hear from people about, what is it? I'm just trying to, I've got a lot of time for that embracing the suck business in a way of let's make our life harder and become comfortable being uncomfortable. I have a lot of time for that on a personal level. I want to become more uncomfortable and get used to being more uncomfortable. And it is uncomfortable to be uncomfortable. We know that, right? So, you're familiar with that yourself. Crikey, about to row across Atlantic, and you've run around everything there is to be run around. So you understand that necessity. And I think we've lost that a lot as well.
I can chip in there though, because I don't want people to think that I'm no different to anyone watching. I row the Atlantic because to me, Tim, that's the easy option. Yeah, and I would do it solo because I know sitting in that boat, pulling at them oars for 18 hours a day on my own, soaking wet, without anyone to chat to, except a satellite phone, once a day or what. I know I can do that, and it's all right, What I find hard is like organising stuff, and you know, it's all the background stuff with a road of sponsorship.
Yeah, that does drag.
Honestly, it's like I need a care worker, Tim. You know, I need a care worker. I need someone to say, right, Chris, you're doing this today. Do that, right? No, you're not wearing that. You got to wear this.
Yeah.
Your car, have you remembered to MOT the car? Right, that's next Thursday. And instead, I'm just like, I can't be asked to do, you know, just let me row the Atlantic or let me run the length of the country. That's just paradise for me, because I don't have to do any other bullshit. You know?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We're trying to escape from that basic life thing, isn't it? Trying to run away from it a little bit. But that's fair enough, isn't it? We'll do that. I mean,
well, I said this the other day when I got my pilot's license. It's because it's such an easy thing to do. You know, for a start, you know, I did mine. I should say I did mine in America. So back along, I mean, it was about 20 years ago now, but it was still only 2,700 quid to do all the lessons. I ended up paying a little bit more because I needed a few more lessons. And then you go to Florida for 3 weeks, sitting in the sun in between flying, and you know, doing your classwork stuff and drinking that weird light beer stuff they have in the evening, and it's like, what? I pay 2,700 quid. I got to go to Florida for 3 weeks. Oh, that's tough. And then I get a pilot's license out of it for the rest of my life, because if you do your license over there, they can't ever take it away from you, right? And like, to me, that is well the easy option, rather than B, work a job in England for a boss you hate, getting up in the cold mornings.
But that's a necessity for a lot of people. That's what I find as well. I have people trying to say to me, you know, how much are you earning doing this, and how much, and it's like pretty much what I was earning in the Air Force. Not much more than that, to be fair, but that's enough for me. I don't need a massive amount of money. I mean, it's actually less than I was earning in the Air Force, but as long as I can pay a mortgage, you know, I haven't got fancy cars or nothing. I don't need that. I'm over that age now. So as long as I've got enough to survive, and I think you said the same thing in the past, haven't you? That's you know, as long as you can make enough to get by. I don't want to waste my years. This is the big thing for me, working for someone in an office somewhere on a project. When I came out of the military, I worked on something called Air Support Delivery for Operational Training, called ASDOT, where they're trying to bring in Red Air, so aggressor aircraft for the British military. The whole project collapsed. It was worth $500 million. The Air Force financed it incorrectly, so it all collapsed. I was working for a company down south called Cobham. It became Draken. And so all that work we did for 6 months, and we all knew it was bollocks, it collapsed. Absolute waste. 6 months of my life, I'm never getting it back. There was no purpose to it. Yeah, you get paid well, but I would never do it again. Even if someone said to me, I'm going to pay you £1,000 a day, I get people go, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I know you would, mate. I'd do it. But you're still giving something out from yourself. You're taking £1,000 that you'll spend on getting them super Mercedes in the driveway, whatever, that you've got nowhere to drive to. But there's something of your soul being lost to working for something so purposeless. You know, it's so transient, and there's no reason to do it. It's not going to change anything. What do you do when you grew up? Oh, I just worked for a shit defense firm and nothing happened that was tangible at all. Nothing, like working on Ajax, isn't it? If you work on Ajax and it's still not ready and it's costing billions of pounds, you must feel awful about that. It's like, why did I bother doing that? I've always felt that. Like, what did you do? What did you do that moved something forward a little bit? The truth is, if you sat in defense on the Ministry of Defense or something for your life, you did nothing. Literally, you can't even pretend that's the case. You probably could talk yourself around and saying, well, someone had to do it. It was good money at the time. But come on.
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird one. What did you do with your life? Oh, I work for a company making landmines. Oh, that's...
what the fuck, Chris? Like, literally, what the fuck?
Oh, how many kids?
When you grew up, is that what you wanted to do when you were like 6 years old? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and make things to kill people indiscriminately years after they've been laid. No one. I went to the Paveway factory in Arizona when I was in the military, and they were just like women, middle-aged women making bombs.
Imagine if imagine you work for like Lockheed Martin or BAE Systems or whatever, or BAE Systems, and every time you like walked in a pub, your mates turn around and go, "Oh, this is Chris. Yeah, he makes landmines to blow kids' legs off. All right, Chris, this is Dave. You'd soon rethink that job, wouldn't you?
You sell it to yourself, don't you? You say it's for the defence of the United Kingdom. We've all been there. You've been there as well. You've been there, you know. If someone said, "What do you do?" I'm a Royal Marine. You're proud to be a Royal Marine. You know, you are, because I think you know, prefrontal cortex development has a lot to do with it. I think as we age, as you become like a dad or a grandfather, I've heard that, you know, you do change things. I had a pilot that I used to fly with a lot, younger than me, and I was his boss. And he came back from, I think he was over Libya or something, and he'd done a lot of bombing over there. Just happened to be at the right time frame when he was in a very kinetic, engaged environment. He dropped bombs, and one of his bombs had impacted a square. It was supposed to be it was supposed to be like a building that housed some aspects of terrorism or something. But anyway, dropped his bomb, killed loads of people in the square. They reckon like 50 people died. None of that shit's ever reported, of course. But I remember he came back and they knew that he was the guy that did that. And he was all cool with it. It was like, well, it was a legitimate target, and we didn't realize it was women and children at the time. And when we dropped the munition and everything, you know, all that kind of stuff. So in his mind, he justified it. Over the next 3 or 4 years that I knew him, it really started to impact him, ripped him apart, started to really unravel him, knowing that he'd done that. And he'd done it for someone else. It wasn't his choice. It wasn't him defending against anything. He was told to target that. There's your coordinates, mate. Off you go. Fly, pickle, bomb. He'd had a kid in that time as well. So he started to think about his child. A lot of kids had died out there as well from his actions. So of course he started to think, well, those kids are never going to have any kids of their own. They're never going to have, you know, never going to be fathers like I am. Fucking ate him up. Don't know what he's like now. I've lost contact with him. He's out of the Air Force now. I don't know whether he's still around. Don't know what he's doing. But I do remember that. I remember that was pretty traumatic for him. And he had no choice. He didn't think about it at the time because he's young. Only when you age, you're talking about it as well, like veteran suicides. Only when you age, isn't it? You kind of go, the fuck was I doing? But you know what, Chris? I do believe we have to. This is how ugly, and it is ugly. This transformation is a very ugly process, and I do it with some men. You've got to go deep into yourself, introspective. Just fucking dig yourself out. Go to that dark place where the dragon lives, whatever, and fight it, and come back out, as Jordan Peterson would say. You know, go and rescue your father from the whale and the depths of the ocean. Whatever you need to do it. But you've got to find out who you are, and you've got to come back out. And sometimes that's not a nice thing to do. Sometimes you don't like yourself very much. Sometimes you really fucking hate yourself, and you're angry at everyone, and no one wants to speak to you, and you just want to go and kill yourself. And I was there myself when I left the military, so I'm well aware of that shit, and that's why I do the work with other men. But it is our responsibility to do one of two things, and that's either take ourselves out and bury ourselves and let other people get on with their lives, or fucking come back as a better person and be sacrificial and do that suffering. It's fucking hard sometimes to get out of bed for me and for other people I speak to and live during the day. Like, I don't want to be here. You know, I have good and bad days. We'll have good and bad days. And I don't have suicidal days anymore, Chris, but I did. You know what I mean? Yes, really good. Fucking bad ones. And that for many reasons. And I dug myself out of that through a very, very lengthy process. I didn't take medication. I didn't take drugs. My sister's a psychiatrist. She wanted me to, but I didn't do it. I'm glad I didn't do it. I did it in a very sort of organic way of investment. So, you know, lifting weights and being near the water and being on land and being in nature and eating healthily and just living through the experience, Chris, and suffering through the experience. I do think we have a responsibility doing that. And I know it gets ridiculed, but the other option is killing yourself. So I just took that second option, you know what I mean? And at the moment, you know, me living through that, I can then help other men live through it as well. Because the veteran community is a very delicate community. It's very, I don't know whether you get a lot of hate from veterans. I don't get much because I think I've got a good soul. I think you have as well. I think we're trying to do the right thing. But a lot of people just will fucking hate what we're doing. And what we're doing is trying to say, look, we can move this forward. We can progress in a better way. A lot
They're
of people
just
say,
projecting
we can't do nothing about it. Sorry, Chris.
They're just projecting their unhealed child trauma onto you, Tim, though, aren't they?
As I did onto other people, as you did onto other people. So we all do it. I think we're all at different stages, aren't we? That's the thing, or that growth thing. And eventually these veterans will come out and they'll be at that stage, and then they will do that work for other people. I think that's a very sort of, I've always said, with veterans, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the most annoying veteran in the whole world. Veterans are difficult people, but because you're a veteran, there is still that connection there. I get so many young people write to me that say, I'd normally hate crabs, I'd normally hate Air Force mates, but actually you're talking quite a lot of sense and I've learned something from you today. So, you know, their default is to go and hate on someone. But then in the military, I guess that's it. It's like trying to get the parachute regiment to be peacekeepers, isn't it? It's like, you've got military people you've designed to do something with, and now you're trying to get them to hold hands, and it fucking doesn't work. It's a very strange thing. I must admit, I think with hindsight, I probably would have given it a miss. The military.
Yeah, there's a bitter irony there, Tim, is that we're in a global mental health not a good place, but we're in a military mental health epidemic, and veterans commit suicide. I mean, not just veterans, serving soldiers commit suicide as well, and we've all known people that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I had two people I served with that I knew personally. I mean, took their own lives whilst I was still serving. Plus, there was another lad blew his head off with his SE80 that I didn't know. But that's just three. And this is what's not spoken about. Is yes, there's a veterans community. There's some absolutely wonderful, kind-hearted, thoughtful, considerate people in it, like yourself, Tim. You know, but there's a lot of people who haven't healed their trauma, and they are, to use the current parlance, incredibly toxic. And
I agree.
And this needs pointing out that their toxicity is going to be a leading factor into why their fellow buddies in arms are killing themselves, because you're either a person. I can give you a little tip. So, example, Tim. I was on a podcast the other day. When I came off it, the host of the show was just like gobsmacked. Seriously, he was, and this is a big podcast. And he turned to his manager, stroke editor, and went, "We've never heard a story like that, Chris." You know, and I'm like, I'm not trying to. I just told him a story, Tim. You know, I've had kind of what people think I've had an interest in life. I haven't. I've just had my life, and to me, it's been all right, been up and down. But anyway, the feedback I got was immense. I was booked up for life coaching. I had messages, Chris, I saw you on the podcast. Just, you know, you're the only person that's ever said something that actually it changed something in my head, and I no longer feel like depressed and when I went to leave a comment to thank the host for having me, and because I left a comment, then anyone replying to my comment I get notified about, don't I, on my YouTube. So otherwise I've learned a long time ago, don't
Yeah, you're not stupid.
It's all right on my channel. I got lovely people. Occasionally you get someone who's a bit damaged, and you know, you just feel sorry for them. But I get me little red thing pops up on the YouTube, so I clicked on it. It's a fellow Royal Marine, Tim, and he's calling me out.
On what?
I guess being a Walter Mitty.
Well, how can you do that? It doesn't make sense.
Well, here's the thing. Rather than just type Chris Thrall into Google or a search engine,
yeah, exactly,
and find out that, you know, I am actually English Veteran of the Year, that I do organise one of the biggest get-togethers for veterans in the country every year. That there's probably countless photos of me over the internet in my uniform. That I life coach damaged veterans, and that I've run the length of the country, done a quadruple Ironman, and then just ran across the Sahara Desert, and I'm just about to row across the Atlantic to raise awareness of veteran suicide.
But he was damaged himself then.
And you have to feel for these individuals, Tim, that you're not that smart, are you, if you don't research the person that you're just slagging off? Secondly, he replied to I think he didn't realise he wasn't in the comment section. He was in my comment. So it's a fellow Royal Marine telling a Royal Marine that I never served. I didn't reply, obviously.
How do you feel about that, Chris? How does that make you feel when you saw that? Were you
I just thought,
angry or?
I thought, brother, we're in a suicide epidemic. My latest buddy that committed suicide was a very special person to me because he was a serving Royal Marine. He was a warrant officer and he loved me, Tim. You know, he loved what I do. I'm not bigging myself up. It was special for me, you know, that he supported everything I do. He bought all my books. Fuck me, I had to learn in a podcast with his mate, who was a para, lovely chap. He says, "Oh, funny enough, Chris, I'm going to a Marine's funeral next week." I'm like, who's would it be anyone? He said, "Yeah, it was son." I was like, what? No. He had 4 kids, Tim, and a loving wife. And he took himself out of the game the day he left after a full career. And then you've got silly people like this guy that I just mentioned calling people out as if it matters that you wore a stupid coloured hat like 30 years ago. You silly egomaniac. Just grow up, you know? Treat people with love, kind, peace and empathy. Yeah, treat people how you would want to be treated. Treat people as if they're hanging the rope up in the garage and the kids are about to come home. And then think about what you'd write to them. And the irony, Tim, is I've just done a podcast about my mental health. How I recovered from chronic mental illness. You know, it's not, do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. Katie Hopkins, bless her, says she's got something wrong in her head and she doesn't give a shit what anyone says, right? Yeah, I don't think there's many people like that, Tim. I think everyone has a human side, and I'm not slagging Katie Hopkins off. She's fine. You know, she's a lovely girl. She's done a lot for veterans as well. But here's the thing. It's like, and it's like, you fucking numpty. The things he was picking me up on was so ridiculously childish. They were like what a teenage Marine would have a chat in a pub with his teenage buddy.
That's what it was.
Like, I referred to the SA-80 because obviously civilians watch podcasts. They're not all military.
People don't realise this. You know, people don't realise it.
So I referred to walking through the streets of Belfast at 19, carrying, I said, essentially what is a machine gun.
Yeah,
that's right. The SA-80 is a fully automatic weapon. It's a, you know, what a civilian would think a machine. Well, he got his bee in a bonnet about that. And then I said that the Marines, we train on Exmoor, because I don't think your average civilian knows where Woodbury Common is or has ever heard of it. So.
They don't. Yeah, exactly.
And this is a thing, it's kind of endemic to the veterans community. I had the same thing at a funeral. Went to a Marine's funeral, lovely chap. Died in Iraq, actually. And I'm at his funeral. I'm there for my buddy's funeral. And some guy at the bar pulled me up with some stupid question about my service. And I'll tell you what it was. He said, what's your service number? You know, as if you should be in a bar at your mate's funeral,
discussing,
checking out everyone's credentials, you know. Well, here's the thing. You know what that thing they say, that you never forget your service number? Guess what? I couldn't remember it, Tim.
Yeah, I think I remember mine, 5 years ago.
I was thinking of my national insurance number, and I was going, NS20. No, that's not it, is it? That's not it. And it was just one of them like silly mental block. Anyway, he took it upon himself in that moment to decide I was a Walter Mitty. No, brilliant. And the irony being, I don't care if I'm a Walter Mitty. I've met Walter Mitties. They're all, you know, they're all human beings, believe it or not. Guy started a fight, at a funeral over that. And even when the Marines jumped in and went, "What are you doing?" He went, "That bloke there, he's never served." They were like, "That's Chris Thrall." He's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "We all serve with him." Yeah, but he's still got to be a. It was farcical, mate. You know. But I just go back to what I say, Tim. Is the only thing I care about is I wished there was if people put as much focus on having a rule in the veterans community that you never slag off a fellow veteran ever, unless, okay, if they're up for child crimes or something, that's like a different thing, isn't it? I'm not saying then that that's where I'd spend my time, but what I mean is just because you don't like the colour of someone's bloody hat or their
I stay out of it now, Chris. I've had people that go at me. I've had to go at people in response to that. Whether an Air Vice Marshal, I had to go at Greg Bagwell, who is being very divisive about the white men being employed in the Royal Air Force. And so I said something to him which was respectful, but then he called me a name and said then I did a YouTube video about him, which he deserved. And the military banter chap as well, we fell out over something trivial. And he actually came on a different thing and sort of apologized afterwards. But he ripped me apart massively on his channel, and I don't know who the chap is. Unfortunately, he's an army chap, isn't he? But I don't necessarily need that negativity on my channel. So I can understand why it happens. But you will get some people like that who will never do the work, Chris. That's the thing. And also, we do have to use terms that civilians understand. I talk about fighter jets, and I talk about me being a fighter pilot. I'm not. I was a bomber pilot. That's a bomber there. I'm not a fighter pilot. Hurts me every time I say fighter pilot because I wasn't one. I was a bomber pilot. I was proud to be a bomber pilot. I never want to be a fighter pilot. But you've got to use the terminology that people outside of the military understand. So you can't say I was patrolling with an SLR or an SA-80. You've got to say I had a machine gun because people understand that stuff. But people that don't run podcasts, I'm quite lucky actually because I don't get much hate from military guys anymore. I think they realise I'm over it. I don't care about it. I care about, as I said, this making yourself better, sacrificial leadership aspect, so we can drag people up and make people better with their families, everything else. That's what I don't care about the trivia. But I still get some emails from people. Most of my emails are really nice. I don't think I've had a bad email for a long time. I get some comments sometimes, but I don't respond to that, But people don't understand. People don't understand what it means to run a YouTube channel. They don't understand the abuse you get. They've got no idea, zero idea of what it takes. Most people can't do it, Chris. Most people would never put themselves in camera. Most people aren't even non-anonymous. Most people aren't even out with a real name. So when you're chatting to someone on Twitter, which I'm not really on that much anymore, but I got banned for a week for saying that I'd burn the LGBT flag down if they replaced the Union flag with it. It was a trivial thing. And I think someone thought I was going to burn down the building the flag was on, which was Nottingham Council. I didn't, so I got banned for a week. And when I went back, I felt quite good about not being on there. But you'll get people, you'll start having a chat with someone and you'll just say to them, I'll say to them, "Who are you, mate?" I say, "Why? What do you want to know?" I say, "Because you're called Donkey Boy 47. I don't know who you are. My name's Tim Davies. I was in the Air Force 20 years. I'm married up to a woman here. I've got this. I live near Herefordshire. Who are you?" Well, what's it matter? Because I've got everything to lose. So in this interaction, I've got everything to lose. Donkey Boy 47 has zero to lose. Why would I speak to you? And they can't answer it.
That's another thing, Tim. Sorry, go on. You make very valid points. But what I notice is like I've seen this. I've been on a few people. I've done a few podcasts now, and I noticed that the bloody hosts, you'll get a comment like, "I wish this guy would rot in hell and die a painful death." The fucking host likes the comment.
I think they do it to mark it off. I mark them off.
And I'm like, dude, if you came on my show and someone spoke like that, that person is unfortunately never gonna leave a comment.
Yeah, I just You hide him from channel. I hide. People don't realize that. High user from channel. Whenever someone says something really, they can have a go at me. But if it's something really negative, I just hide user from channel. And what people don't realize, Chris, your people listening will learn this now, that they will never be seen. No matter what they write on your channel again, it will never be seen in the comments. No one will see it. They'll see it, but no one else will ever see it again. Some people write to me sometimes and go, "My comments aren't appearing on your channel," and I write back and say, "Probably because you've been an absolute prick. Let me have a look for it." And I go look for him. Yeah, you've been. I'll screenshot it for you, mate. There you go. That's what you said. Why would I let you comment? Well, mate, I've just back then it was different. No, mate, no. I'm not having that kind of language in a comment section where young people are invested in as well. If you can't behave yourself and you're called Purple Boy 14, so it's not even your real name. So don't come and bring that negativity into my channel and think I'm going to allow it. You don't have to do that.
Hey,
you can do it. I'll miss it, but I had 4,000 comments on my last video. It's a real struggle to get through them, Chris. 4,000 comments. I'm struggling. My wife was doing a lot of them. Have a read of this one. This guy's struggling. Have a read of that. Yeah, mate. They're fucking replying to that shit. I think I had 2 negative ones in the whole lot. And I went, right, fuck it. Hide user, done. Because what's the point in you saying these things? This guy's a twat. Thanks, mate. I'll just hide you. If you're not going to contribute to it, I'm not going to have you on there. It doesn't matter. And then do you have the audacity to come and complain at me that you can't see your negative shit comments that you put up there? I mean, what the fuck are in it? It doesn't make sense. So some people are mental, and you're such a kind bloke that you say, oh, they're dealing with some trauma. And I'm like, yeah, you probably are. By yourself, you know what I mean? Because you can't just expect to bring that and expect to get some attention from it.
I'm laughing because I'm just imagining 2 lads rocking up trying to get in a nightclub or something, and the doorman says ID lads, and the camera pans them, and they both just got avatars, blank, and he goes, "Oh, Donkey Boy 47, come on in." "Oh, Purple 17, all right, lads."
So true.
They're like, "Yeah, we've just been on Tim's channel."
Yeah. He recognised us. Yeah, he's banned us again.
Yeah, it is a funny one. The other thing as well is I don't think a lot of people realise that YouTube, that they're flagged as a spammer by YouTube.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah,
a lot. I can't control that. If you select the no profanity bit, it automatically gets rid of them. I never see the comments. So.
It's not even that. It's that I don't flag anything,
right,
unless it's a vulnerable guest. And I protect them, obviously. But even when you haven't filtered anything, a lot of people, their comments are held by YouTube. Like if
held for review by you.
Yeah, no, YouTube have held their comment because YouTube deem it's possibly inappropriate. And I haven't clicked any of the boxes, Tim. I don't click like moderate, extreme. It's what you see on my channel is what's there. Unless if someone's really misbehaving, then it's like, sorry, sunshine, you can't put your trauma on everyone else. People are struggling to bloody stay alive here,
trigger people,
and you're a loose cannon, I'm afraid. But I wish you the best of luck. Just this channel isn't for you, But what I'm saying is some of my most loyal supporters, they don't know this because I've never had this conversation before. I've never had a need to have. They don't know that they're flagged as a spammer as standard by YouTube, probably because on other people's channels they've left a valid comment, let's just say about the last 3 years, but the channel owner hasn't appreciated it because maybe they're a bit, maybe a bit brainwashed or something. Yeah. And that channel owner has blocked them from their channel or hidden them. And therefore that tells the YouTube, software, this person is a potential spammer. And when that happens on a few channels, then they come onto your channel, and because you're, alternative media, their comments quite welcome.
Yeah.
But YouTube have I get a lot of comments held, even though I don't hold any of them. YouTube hold them, and I have to go to the little box and go, oh, hang on, there's 5 comments in there.
For review. I still get some of those, but it's normally people. I think I've got a profanity setting on there, like a low one, high, really bad language, basically. So I didn't realize that. That's an interesting one. That if they've been done somewhere else, they maybe, that's a fascinating one. I'll have a look at that again then. I do get some mad people though. Come on. And I just have to go, that's not making any sense at all. I'm just going to.
Yeah, that's,
don't know what that is.
You do see some like schizophrenia and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, people don't realise. I can't have that in there. I mean, people. The comment section is. I point people to the comment section. Hey, look at the comment section on this latest video. It's some really useful stuff in there because people write, especially veterans, not just veterans, people in business and stuff, civvies and stuff that have been in business all their lives, write some really interesting stuff that really kind of helps me get things in perspective sometimes, and it makes me, I think, a more balanced sort of narrator of content. Hopefully, anyway. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know, Chris. Anyway, we're going to row across the Atlantic then.
Yes. Anyone out there, if you're a service person, a veteran, you want to row across the Atlantic?
You're not serious, Chris, are you?
I'll say now, you must be focused on fundraising, because any idiot can pull on a pair of oars. I know, because I can do it. I say that, Tim, because the alpha male mentality of the military is people think I need someone to row the boat or navigate or something. It's like, no, that's these days, that's all pretty, boredom's probably your biggest challenge. Yeah. No, it's the fundraising. We want to make a lot of money for these charities. We got a couple of some costs we may or may not need to cover depending on how much we put in personally, sort of thing. But I am obviously putting a whole year of my life into it, and but yeah, I know I just put it out there. A spiritual veteran who puts other people before himself and who understands social media would be would certainly be a good fit. Yes, and friends, I'll just give you, in case you didn't see earlier, we are Oceans Elite Row on all our social media. Look, you can see it there. Look, Oceans Elite Row. There's our GoFundMe. There's a link below. If you can spare £5 to help get a homeless veteran off the street, off the booze or the substances, just like I was back in the day, you potentially got a good YouTuber to come in a few years.
Yeah.
So link is below in the description, friends. And that just leaves me to thank my wonderful guest, Tim Davies. There's a link, folks, for Tim's channel, Fast Jet Performance, in the description box below. And yes, get on over there, because Tim's always got something interesting to say. And yes, Tim, is there anything you'd like to add before we hit the highway?
No, I think you're a really good bloke, Chris, and it's lovely to be here. And thank you for having me on your podcast. And I'm very grateful for you.
My pleasure, Mike. My pleasure. Stay on the line, Tim's, just so I can thank you properly. Friends, usual thing, if you could like and subscribe, that would be wonderful. Check that you're subscribed if you're a subscriber, because a lot of us people are getting unsubscribed. Thank you to everyone that supported us on Locals, Patreon, or what am I saying? Or become a YouTube member, where all our back catalogue is. Massive thank you to you all. And that's it. See you soon. Much love. 'Cause I've been living